We're recording? Oh yeah, do this here.
It's fine, you're gonna post it on YouTube and like be famous in like 5 seconds. Everybody watches policy debate. Yeah, really. All right, I'll begin time when you begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Grace Merchant. I'm from American Senior High School. Today I will be presenting to you the affirmative stance. Plan. The United States federal government substantially increases economic and diplomatic engagement of the People's Republic of China over the implementation and enforcement of the agreement made at the 21st Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Paris through a bilateral framework. I would like you to picture a world where you can't go outside without facing a potential heat wave. Imagine having to go hungry because of the amount of crop loss. With the use of our plan, we can ensure that this picture will never be drawn. Contention 1. Inherency. President Trump does not believe in man-made climate change. He will prevent enforcement of the Paris Agreement goals in the U.S. This will collapsing confidence and momentum, dooming global implementation, making 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit warming inevitable. Davenport, 2016. My partner will further elaborate on this topic as I will choose to move on to other cards. Sorry. Okay. So. Sorry, my cards are completely out of order.
It's fine. We'll have
Okay, contention 2, advantages. Halting climate change now is critical to keeping warming below 4 degrees Celsius. If left unchecked, warming will cause sea level rise, species loss, crop failures, threatening extinction. Climb, 2014. As global warming approaches and exceeds 2 degrees Celsius, there is a risk of triggering non-linear tipping elements. Examples include the disintegration of the West Antarctic ice sheet, leading to a more rapid sea level rise, or large-scale Amazon dieback, drastically affecting ecosystems, rivers, agriculture, energy production, and livelihoods. This would further add to the 21st century global warming and impact entire continents. In other words, once we allow temperatures to climb past a certain point, where the mercury stops is not in our control. So, okay, as the affirmative, we believe that we should work with China since they are 2 global superpowers and the largest greenhouse gas emitters. We believe that they should come together in order to first set an example to other countries, because although the Paris Agreement is already set and a bunch of countries have already agreed to join on it and to work together towards climate change, the Paris Agreement is set to go through in 2020. But we believe that with our plan, the United States and China working through a bilateral framework to enforce those policies from the Paris Agreement, we can start making a change faster than instead of waiting 3 years, because we're already climbing past a point where if we pass 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is that's the path that we're on, we can't go back, and we'll eventually reach this level of where Earth will practically be like a melting pot, and we don't want to get there. So we believe that instead of waiting for those 3 years, we should start working now with China independently, since we are the 2 largest greenhouse gas emitters. And this will also set an example for other countries to follow. Maybe countries that haven't joined the Paris Agreement yet, they will feel more motivated because they'll see the changes that the United States and China have improved on. Also, by us working together, we will make sure that we cannot change China's regime, and we're not trying to control or polarize the actions they take in their country. We are simply trying to enforce more regulations and stuff, since China, they don't have the best government, but with our help, we can reach a point where our greenhouse gas emissions will go down. Also, the United States and China, we can team up with India, who is also the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitters. By us working together, we will largely motivate India to work with us, because India has stated that they want funds in order to collaborate with us. So by us coming together, we can also get India even more on board, since they are the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitters. Our plan does consist of these 2 countries working together, but once again, this will motivate more countries to come forward and take larger steps with us. So thank you, that's all I have. Stand ready for process.
you did mention how we could work with India, correct?
Yes.
And you said that they do need funds, correct?
Yes.
Hasn't Mr. Trump said that he will not provide any financial aid to other countries?
Which is why we need to go with the Paris Accord.
Which is why our plan, the bilateral framework, working with the United States and China, by us working together, we're gonna work together, period. So obviously funding is gonna go into this, so we're pretty sure that we will fund India to get them on board.
Do you have any evidence that your plan is effective?
I mean, she did say a lot of evidence that her plan was effective. Do you want her to restate it? Strawberry, you can.
Specifically what?
Specifically, how in the future, in the long run, how much it would actually deplete climate change temperature.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, I'm gonna read one of them. One of them is claimed 2014. The bigger problem is that because governments do not agree to binding targets, their emissions are rising so rapidly that unless something radical changes within our economic structure, 2 degrees now looks like a utopian dream. There is also no certainty that an adaptation to a 4 Celsius world is possible. 4 degrees Celsius warming, 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit is incompatible with an unorganized, equitable, and civilized global community. We don't know exactly what a 4 degrees Celsius world would look like, but even in the best case scenario, it's likely to be climactious. 4 degrees of warming could raise global sea levels by 1 or possibly even 2 meters by 2100. That's by Klein 2014, which is a business professor, which is why it's the best type of professor to help us and give us the statistics for this, because obviously it does have to do with math.
You stated that the article is 2014, right?
Yes.
So we are in 2017, is that correct?
Yes.
And data changes afterwards.
Time's elapsed. 1 and C, I stand prepared to time.
All right.
I'll begin time when you begin speaking.
Yeah, it's fine. We're probably gonna be doing this stuff.
It's fine.
Right, this one?
Yeah.
Alright.
Perfect.
Good morning, my name is Michael Pereira, and I'll be talking on the first half of the negative case. The Paris Climate Agreement has been held by some as a significant diplomatic success, while others see it as nothing more than a series of promises with no guarantee that significant action will result. Targets for countries are really not enforceable. The main point of this content that we have with the Paris Climate Agreement is that there is no mechanism for reinforcement. There is no penalties, financial or otherwise, for a country failing to meet its emissions reduction commitment. Promised emissions reduction targets will not keep warming under 2 degrees Celsius. The agreement commits that the international community to keeping the post-industrial warming of the planet to well below 2 degrees and approaching 1.5 degrees. However, the emission reduction promises that have been made will still allow a warming of 2.7 degrees by the year 2100. A fact that led Arthur Naomi Klein to refer to the agreement as woefully indelicate. Government signatures may not be those who implement changes. The year wait for countries to announce their emission reductions means that democratically elected governments will have until after their next election to show progress, which the reason for 5 years went extinct in the first place. It also means that some of the governments who signed the Paris Climate Agreement will not be the same government who tasked with implementing the needed changes. One thing I would like to mention, this is from the University of South Denmark. That says, basically what they're stating here is that, yes, the affirmative side does say that climate change is caused by emissions that we're emitting into the air, but what they've discovered is that orbital variations are the main cause of climate change. As I'll read here, global warming theorists have yet taken another hit with a new study of Denmark, which demonstrates that variations in the Earth's orbit are primarily the cause of climate change and have been at least for 1.4 billion years. So the same force that's been changing the climate 1.4 billion years ago is underlying the force behind global warming today. Climate refugees, one of the most pressing concerns regarding our changing planet is the displacement of people either through rising sea levels or increasing in extreme weather patterns, leaving some areas inhabitable. Early negotiations involve developing strategies on how to deal with climate refugees, but were left out the final agreement after opposing from Australia, a country with a historical tradition of receiving a large influence of people who arrive involuntarily.
Okay, do you want to stand up or cross? Okay, so can you elaborate on, I understand what you mentioned where you stated
Orbital variations.
Orbital variations, yes.
Can you elaborate on what that is?
It wasn't clear.
So basically, like this water bottle, as we all know, the Earth goes around, and basically that the Earth sort of tilts a little bit every year, and it changes.
It changes still, yes.
Yes, that's like, and there's different ways the Earth, yes, it orbits in a circle, but there's slight changes to it every year that causes.
Like the tilt changes, the tilt on the axis changes
Okay,
every
how
year.
does this affect global warming? With your point.
Well, as it said, the University of Denmark, they did that research that said that's been the main cause of climate change.
Okay, and since that's already a problem, can we do anything to fix that?
Is that in our control, changing the way the Earth rotates?
No.
So shouldn't we start fixing what is in our control? So maybe we can stop it a little or slow it down? Wouldn't that be the smart thing to do? Yes?
Okay, so, I mean, basically, do you guys believe in climate change or no? Is that what the negative is representing?
Yes, we believe in climate change.
You believe it's an actual problem?
Yes, it is an actual problem. Did you
We're not saying that climate change is a fake, it's not real. We're just saying that it's just not a problem right now.
But you just stated that it is a problem due to the
But
tilt
it
of
is
the
happening
axis.
that the University of Denmark has identified that.
But because of the cause of, emission-wise, climate change.
So we should stop emissions.
But that's,
And you just agreed with us that we should slow down what's happening so far.
We should slow down emissions, but we should slow it down in another fashion. We should work with ourselves in an independent.
So you have a counter plan?
A counter plan.
That hadn't been stated in your constructive, you simply just said that it's not emissions, it's orbital variations. So,
Time's up. Comments will also be on the back. I'll be good. Okay, so 200 days, this is probably go up and help a little bit.
Okay. Hello, my name is Angela Bella, and I would like to thank you for listening to our proposal. In the favor of the fact that the United States federal government should substantially increase its economic and diplomatic engagement of the People's Republic of China. This proposition is to be presented as a policy case in the affirmative. For the sake of clarification, I would like to define the following terms. Global warming, the observed and projected increases in the average temperature of Earth's atmosphere and oceans. The Paris Agreement, an agreement that sets out a global action plan to put the world on track to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. The criterion for the debate is to present the benefits of a policy to decide whether climate change should be prioritized over geopolitics. You should grant adherence to the side that presents the best supporting evidence. Here, I present to you the plan. The plan is for the United States federal government to substantially increase its economic and diplomatic engagement of the People's Republic of China over the implementation and enforcement of the agreement made at the 21st Conference of Parties of the United States Framework on Climate Change in Paris through a bilateral framework. Contention 1, inherency. President-elect Donald Trump does not believe in man-made climate change. He will prevent enforcement of the Paris Agreement goals in the U.S. This will collapse confidence and momentum, doing global implementation, making warming 3.66 degrees Fahrenheit inevitable. Davenport, 2016. To further elaborate, Mr. Trump has already vowed to cancel last year's Paris Climate Agreement plans, which commits more than 190 countries to reduce their emissions of planet-warming carbon dioxide pollution. If Trump steps back from that, it makes it much less likely that the world will ever meet target, and essentially ensures that we will head into danger zone. As the Chinese negotiator said in an email response to the Americas, China's attitude toward low-carbon development is that tackling climate change is not something anybody asks us to do, it's what we want to do. Mr. Trump cannot legally block other countries from fulfilling their Paris Agreement commitments, nor can he quickly or unilaterally erase Mr. Obama's climate change goals. But he can, as president, choose not to carry out the Paris Plan in the United States, and he could so substantially slow or weaken the enforcement of Mr. Obama's rules that they would have little impact on reducing emissions in the U.S., at least during Mr. Trump's term. That could doom the Paris Agreement goal of reducing carbon dioxide emissions to stave off an atmospheric warming of at least 3.06 degrees, the point at which many scientists say the planet will be locked into an irreversible future of the extreme and dangerous warming. Without the full participation of the U.S., the world's second largest greenhouse gas polluter after China, that goal is probably unattainable, even if every other country follows through on its pledges. That's why we need the United States to come in and to agree with the Paris Agreement and to stay on the Paris Agreement. And the expert says, without the participation of the U.S., other governments are less likely to carry out their pledge emissions. Meaning, if we back out, a lot of other countries and back out with us. Tackling climate change is not something anybody asks us to do, as I mentioned earlier. It's something that we want to do. India, the world's third largest greenhouse gas polluter, have made clear that the steps to cut emissions will depend on financial aid from rich countries. It will most certainly affect the momentum in negotiations because it throws up a lot of questions. Trump and China, that doesn't mean that Trump will have to aid India. Also, China can aid India. Contention 2, advantages. Advantage 1. Halting climate change now is critical to keep warming below 4 degrees Celsius. If left unchecked, warming will cause sea level rise, species loss, and crop failures, threatening extinction claim 2014, which was what I mentioned about the business professor. Adding to that, the bigger problem is that because of governments do not agree to binding targets, emissions are rising so rapidly that unless something radical changes with our economic structure, then 2 degrees will be a utopian dream. Advantage 2. President-elect Trump's plans to withdraw from the Paris Agreement would prove the way for China to fill in the role as a global climate change leader. Both Volkovici and Rome, 2016. To vote on that, if Trump abandons efforts to implement the Paris Agreement, China's influence and voice are likely to increase in global climate governance, which will then spill over into other areas of global governance and increase China's global standing power, leadership, meaning even if the United States withdraws from the agreement, other countries' efforts will not change. As global warming approaches and exceeds 2 degrees Celsius, there is a risk of triggering non-linear tripping elements. Examples include the disintegration of the West Antarctic ice sheet, leading to more rapid sea levels, or large-scale Amazon dieback, drastically affecting the ecosystem, rivers, agriculture, energy productions, and livelihoods. This would further add to 21st century global warming and impact entire countries. In other words, once we allow temperature to climb past a certain point where the mercury stops, is not in our control. But the bigger problem is that because governments are not agree to binding targets, Emissions are rising so rapidly that unless something radical changes within our economic structure, 2 degrees Celsius now looks like a utopian dream. We're on a track to a 4 Celsius warmer world by century's end, marked by an extreme heat waves, declining global food stocks, loss of ecosystems and biodiversity, and life-threatening sea level rise. There is also no certainty that a rotation to a 4 Celsius world is possible. 4 degrees Celsius warming 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit is incompatible with an organized, equitable, and civilized community. Okay, advantage 3. Engaging China over climate change is key to broader cooperation, HART 2014. It is true that the U.S. should look for opportunities to actively engage in China in international decision-making in low-risk way. There has been breathtaking progress that the U.S. and China have achieved in the energy and climate space. Excuse me. That has shown that China and U.S. can eventually overcome their differences. Contention 3. China and the U.S. are the 2 largest emitters, which creates a unique momentum to address climate change globally. Further bilateral engagement is key archer to the goals set by the Paris Agreement, Audia All 2016. To further elaborate, once again.
Cross-examination. This is the
Does your plan, you want to work bilaterally, correct?
I want to work with the Paris Accord
bilaterally with China, yes, that's our plan.
and all the other countries.
But you just stated in the first speaker point that you would only work bilaterally with China.
No, we said we would work bilaterally in China to enforce the regulations to the Paris Agreement, and the Paris Agreement has all the countries.
We're not saying we want to work independently with China, we want to work independently with China and the Paris Agreement, which includes all the other countries.
Do you know the full cost of this plan?
No, it wasn't stated.
So there's not a budget to be,
That's why there's China and the US and many other countries have been meeting together to state that once the plan fully starts, then we will all come together. Either way, it won't be the US fully paying the plan. China has a lot of resources that they can put in it too. It would help us a lot.
You did state that Mr. Trump did pull out of the Paris.
Mr. Trump is trying to pull out, he can't pull out. Because it's Obama's vision.
But if he, in such case, let's say he does pull out.
The Paris Agreement still goes on, which is why Trump can't pull out. Either way, the plan starts in 2020. We don't know if Trump will be in presidency. But we are trying to avoid that by getting Trump to work with the Paris Agreement.
with China.
Through the Paris Agreement. That's all? Thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Madonna Moncare. I'm the second negate speaker of Atlanta Games Senior High School, and I will follow up what my partner said. As he stated, the Paris Climate Agreement has been hailed by some as a significant diplomatic success, while others see it as nothing more than a series of promises with no guarantee that significant action will result. Targets for countries are really non-enforceable. The main point of this continent that many have with the Paris Climate Agreement is that there is no mechanism for reinforcement. There are no penalties, no financial or otherwise, for a country to fail to meet that intended emission reduction commitment. What this means is that the only real penalty for a country failing to meet its commitments is that its representative may encounter some disappointed faces from other diplomats when reporting their results. The UN Assistant Secretary General on Climate Change, Janos Castro, let the media know that public shaming of the non-compliant countries is off the table. And as my partner said, promised emission reductions targets will not keep warming under 2 degrees. The agreement commits the international community to keeping the post-industrial warming of the planet to well be below 2 degrees and approaching 1.5 degrees. However, the emission reduction promises that have been made would still allow a warming of 2.7 degrees, like my partner said, by the year 2100. Like, consider the case of Canada and the Kyoto Protocol. The Liberal Canadian government signed and ratified Kyoto, but was defeated in the next election after running on a platform that involved a carbon tax. The new Conservative government then withdrew from the Kyoto and blamed the previous government for having made commitments that the country was not prepared to live up to. As my partner said, government seniorities may not be there who implement changes. The 5-year wait for countries to announce their emission reductions mean that democratically elected government will have until after the next election to show progress, which is the reason why the 5-year wait exists in the first place. It also means that some of the governments who signed the Paris Climate Agreement will not be the same government who are tasked with implementing the new needed changes. So if it's not the same people, because it's a 5-year accord, it's a 5-year emission. That means you turn in your results at 5 years. This is basically the Paris Accord. In an article stated 2016. Climate refugees, one of the more pressing concerns regarding our changing planet is the displacement of people, either through rising sea levels or the increase in extreme weather patterns, leaving some areas uninhabitable. Early negotiations involved developing strategies on how to deal with the climate refugees, but were left out the final agreement after oppositions from Australia, a country with a historic tradition of receiving a large influx of people who arrive involuntarily. So as I stated here, that as further research as I did on the Paris Accord, as climate refugees, as they stated that they were helping climate change, but they are not helping the climate refugees that's facing the wrath of climate change because of our expense. And as I stated before about how they haven't really reinforced their plans, such as climate change 1 and C. The Chinese government can't enforce reductions. They don't have regulatory regimen capable of doing it. China's central government is good at announcing targets to reduce emissions and even installing controls sometimes, but incapable of forcing them. And plus, the Paris Accord does not even enforce it either. It's just saying that they wanted to recommend a goal that at 5 years, a goal for them to reach at. Even if those countries haven't reached that goal, there will be no penalties either. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Are you ready? Yeah, oh, sorry.
Okay. You stated that you had a counter plan. Could you repeat it?
Our counter plan. Our counter plan is finding new sources of energy such as geothermal, solar, wind, and etc. And we're starting passing laws and enforce these new laws to reduce emissions in this country first. And afterwards, when we reduce emissions in this country, then we could abide by helping other countries as a multilateral agreement. First, we have to fix the problem that here in our country to see if our plan is really effective. Because if we don't actually see how the plan works, then we won't really have data analysis to back it up. So how can we go on to say, oh, we're going to work with this country, and then it's proved to be ineffective?
But a lot of countries have proved to be effective, and we've proved to be effective ourselves, and so has China. So why can't we work? Shouldn't it be better to work together? Because I remember your partner agreed with me that we should act now, that we should work together to slow this down.
My partner said we should act now, but we shouldn't really work with China yet, just yet.
But the Paris Agreement is already in place. So why get out of the Paris Agreement to do something that isn't a full plan? Like, it isn't something that's written out.
Okay, you stated
We are doing
that it's in effect, right? Okay, if you say that's in effect, do you have any data analysis that back it up that is actually helping?
It's
I'm
set
asking
to
the
take
question.
place in 2020.
Okay, how does Canada have any comparison to what we're talking about?
because it's just as a case of Canada, the Cairo.
I understand the case of Canada. I'd like for you to explain to me how does that compare?
It compares because they were trying to tackle climate change too, in the same way that we were doing.
Yeah, they were trying to tackle climate change independently, just how your counterpart is.
And it
proposing,
didn't work.
It didn't work out for them, so.
So that's why we should do it bilaterally through the Paris Agreement, meaning China with us and China with other countries.
Time's up. Future reference, let people finish their sentences. Okay, continue.
It's the same way that we're stating that after.
Time's up. All right, you guys.
Isn't it the first negative?
Yes, one and R.
Okay, so it's
On rebuttal, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, you're up.
Can I use some of my time?
Yeah, sure. How much?
Use-
You have 5 minutes
Yeah.
collectively, so. Okay. I'll tell you when your time's up.
Yeah.
One minute remaining. Time's up.
My name is Michael, as you already know, and I will be performing the rebuttal for the negative side. But I believe that you should vote for our side because we did provide a counter plan to the affirmative side's argument that we should look for new sources of energy and that we should work first here in the US and then we could go multilateral to other countries. The affirmative side did give facts and they did say, but they never quite gave an action plan of what they're, exactly how the US and China are gonna work together. They never quite gave an action plan and never elaborated on that.
For like 2 minutes straight of just moving around.
Okay. Okay. Great, so, my opponents have contradicted themselves a majority of the time in their arguments. I'll try to quote to the best of my ability. They said that emissions aren't the problem, that it's simply the orbital variation, but the orbital variation is out of our control. So they're saying that climate change is real and we should work towards fixing it, yet they're only saying that it comes from orbital variation, which we obviously cannot control. Also, they stated that China and the United States working together won't really be effective when I have here in the evidence card that my partner read, where it states that China and the US are the two largest emitters, which creates a unique momentum to address climate change globally, and further bilateral engagement is key to achieve the goals set by the Paris Agreement, which is by Al-Vietah in 2016. China and the United States are the two largest greenhouse gas emitters in the world, together accounting for 35% of global greenhouse gas emissions in 2012, and it is widely acknowledged that action by China and the US is necessary for the world to effectively address global climate change. Cooperation between China and the United States to regard climate change is very important for the success of the Paris Agreement, which is what our plan focuses on, that the United States and China should work bilaterally, basically taking a lead role now to enforce the regulations set by the Paris Agreement, because as my opponent stated, it doesn't guarantee that all countries will work towards it. It's just basically them stating that, yes, they agree climate change is an issue. So by going with our plan, we will be ensuring and motivating more countries to take action, just how we will be doing. Also, they stated that China is incapable of enforcing regulations because they don't have like a good regime. Well, that's exactly why our plan is important. And why are we going to let another country go alone when we can solve this together, especially if they don't have a good regime? China already stated that they're going to act anyway, with or without the United States, so we might as well work together. Also, they say that they are providing a counter plan by saying that the United States should work independently in finding new resources. Well, they've simply just been stating ideas that they have, not really a concrete, solid plan as to how we're going to fix this, unlike us, where we do have a plan and we have multiple ways said that our plan is China and the United States working together, and that is concrete, unlike how our opponent said that we didn't have anything substantial. Also, once they mentioned Canada, which is basically, Canada went by themselves to try to fix global warming on their own, that completely backfired on them, as my opponent said, and then she says that this is relevant towards their counter plan because it would be the United States working alone also. That would just indicate that the United States would backfire if they work independently. So you should vote with the affirmative because we presented the most concrete facts and arguments and we haven't contradicted ourselves. Also, our plan, we're sure that it will work out, unlike their simple ideas. Thank you, that's all.
You begin prep time now.
membership has been voluntary.
Negative, your time has elapsed. Please stand for your speech.
Okay. I am Madonna Kerr, the second debate speaker, and I would like to be the one to conclude this argument. I believe that you should vote for the gay side, because our plans say that America could fix the problems such as finding efficient ways as laws for regulating emissions, because outside of this countries we can't really assure that. First, finding an effective way to cut back on our emissions, then after we finish our problems, we can help give the plans that we've made so we can actually have a stable plan. If we don't have evidence that this plan can actually work, such as it has many flaws, such as it targets for countries are really non-enforceable. The main point of this continent that many have this Paris Climate Agreement, that it has no mechanism for reinforcement. And just as my affirmative side stated that we will try to ensure and motivate, but if that doesn't work, are we going to give them a pat on the back for trying? The affirmative side stated that this plan is effective, but only gave scenarios and no true analysis and data of how it is effective. And they never really answered the point of how it never stated any climate refugees, how the people that's already affected by climate, such as climate refugees, such as what's happening in the Maldivian islands, that their islands are dispersed. One of the more pressing concerns regarding our changing planet is the displacement of the people, as I stated. And as they said it, that the Canada and the Kyoto Protocol, they stated that I was contradicting myself. But I meant it in a way that it was defeating that, like I said, that it's happening in 2020. But when it was defeated in the next election after running on a platform that involved a carbon tax. So if we're trying to inform it, if we're trying to make sure that it's effective in 2020, but what if about the next election that it's not really effective? So it will fall back on the previous government. Thank you.
I'm gonna start by supporting the point that I mentioned from Advantage 2. Trump can't abandon efforts and China will gain more power as stated. They have a counter plan, but it's not really more of a plan, it's more of just ideas. Because they're telling us that we don't have a strict, a mechanism towards it. Yet we've mentioned that we do, and they say that they haven't showed us theirs and they haven't mentioned a counter plan, what would happen, how would it work? They say that we don't have facts, but they have even less. And we've stated that we have done some things and that it's worked. For example, given that China and the United States are the world's two largest GHG emitters, the momentum that already exists with respect to bilateral cooperation on climate change and clean energy technologies, is important to explore how China and US cooperation can facilitate multilateral cooperation and global efforts to address climate change, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and how China and the United States can collaborate to magnify possible trade benefits and reduce possible trade risks of the momentum toward low carbon societies. If we abandon the Paris Agreement with China, they will increase in global governance and increase China's global standing, power, and leadership. We don't want that to happen, which is one of the reasons that we need to stay on track with the Paris Accord. We can't leave the Paris Accord. They want us to basically compete with China and all the other countries because they want us to do it by ourselves before starting with everyone else. Competition leads to hostility instead of improvement. We can't compete with China or any other countries. For China has more power than the US, and once again, then they'll become a bigger governance and they'll go against us. They want real change with another plan, yet they don't have like proven facts that their plan will work. They're indecisive as to what to do, and they're obviously confused. And my opponents also stated they want to put a counter plan, but it sounds more like an idea, as I mentioned. They haven't given any statistics and backed up their plan with any evidence or even discussed it outside of the cross-ex or the rebuttal. They contradicted themselves. They just mentioned it in the cross-ex and rebuttal. They didn't really they mentioned it once in their constructive. The Paris Agreement seeks to phase out net greenhouse gas emissions by the second half of the century. I'm repeating something that I already read. And limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels. Each country has put forward national plans to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. 4 degrees Celsius is something we can't reach, which is why we need to start with the Paris Agreement now and the Paris Accord, because it's something that we already have in plan. We already have like on track. In 3 years, it will start. That's it. I stand against my client, and I hope you pick the one with the best supporting evidence.
Alrighty, good stuff, guys. Okay, I just want to clarify some things just for my sake, okay? My first question. Alright, let's see, where do I write this down? One, just for tidbit, just debate, never agree with the opposing argument, even if what they say makes sense. You never agree. This is what you do. You say, sure, but you never agree with them, ever, like in your life. That is no. Okay. All right, so, and one of the main things you guys say is, Trump is against climate change and Trump, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. So, how is Trump being against climate change going to help your cause? Like, you want
It's like saying like how we need Trump on track, like why we need to push it.
Okay, she read an evidence card where she said that if the United States, like if Trump and all that backs out, then China, they will get like governance and they'll be like the world super leader.
Like the leadership.
That's why she said that we're gonna stay because Trump won't back out to let China just take over.
but like, okay.
We're saying Trump wants to back out, but that he, like in a way he can't because it was Obama's like rules.
Yeah, but like, okay, thing is,
So like when they settle the tactics, they have like an inherency and then they have the movement. So like the inherency is basically the same as that for goes after.
yeah, I get it, but like, okay, think about it. Like, you're saying, okay, you need the US to cooperate with China because then that will motivate other countries. Okay, but your president doesn't believe in climate change, so like, what kind of a cooperation can you hope for when you have an administration that puts blackouts on EPA scientists and doesn't believe in climate change? Like, how does mentioning and emphasizing that Donald Trump disagrees with climate change and his entire administration disagrees with climate change, how does that help your issue of wanting to cooperate?
We just thought it would help as in like we need to push it more.
But like, how are you gonna push it if your entire administration's against it?
It's not the entire administration, it's just Trump. Like Trump's the one that wants to pull out.
And still in order to emphasize that like he can't look at single countries.
Like he can't do he can't completely erase Obama's rules.
Yeah, I know, but like, what sort of diplomatic future and cooperation can you
Like we
hope
shouldn't
for?
have mentioned it, basically.
I'm not saying that you should not mention it because I get that you need to state the status quo, but like, I don't know, I said the way of the flow that you guys were doing, I don't know, and it seems kind of contradictory that you want to cooperate with China and fighting climate change, but then you're stating that your president like doesn't believe in climate change, so it's like, okay, then how the hell are you gonna do it? It's like, it doesn't make it seem practical, you get me?
But like, we have to state the status quo, so
I
what
get
I
it,
wanted
that's
to
why,
base
you
it
get
on is like maybe we need to, like, give him like a little, like, we can't back out.
But okay,
What
basically,
practicality are you backing, like, how are you gonna make him stay in the climate
She- I mean,
thing?
By all the countries like pushing in.
she said in one of the cards that.
Okay, so then,
What you basically.
Like basically pressure.
What you're trying to say is like, how's that?
no, like, it's not clarifying, because I've heard this argument before, and it still doesn't make sense to me, like, okay, do you want like, international pressure, do you do?
Yeah, like
sanctions?
pressure by your own country, if the people agree, that'll pressure the president, like,
Okay,
Okay,
maybe, I don't know how to explain myself, I'm sorry, yeah.
yeah. Just cause like, okay, I don't wanna like be mind blocked because I don't get the argument and then I judge them wrongly, you get me? Like, I wanna understand.
I can explain it for you, I've been with him before when I'm like reading the evidence and stuff. Basically, by mentioning that Trump wants to back out, besides it being the status quo, also like the rest of the cards, they talk about how even if Trump like backs out, the Paris Agreement will still be there, so he won't back out completely, because our cards say that China, they don't care if Trump backs out or not, they're gonna act regardless, so then that will make them like leading power for the global warming stuff, but Trump
you
won't
contradict
his
yourself
power,
when
he's
you
power
say
hungry.
that.
Like, we're basically saying that Trump won't do it because he's scared.
Okay,
I can break it down.
please.
So you state the status quo, right, and then you compare the world with the status quo, with the plan and that. So some cards that they have, it says that, yeah, although Trump wants to do this, he doesn't have the power to. For instance, let me see if I can.
He can't just wait.
It's like a counter argument.
Yeah.
Like saying like this is happening, but
Still he can't, like, he can't back out anyway, even if he wants to or not.
like either way, since we had to mention it, we wanted to mention it more to make sure that they didn't use it against us.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so for one, for instance, like they highlighted this, that he cannot quickly or unilaterally erase Mr. Obama's climate rules. So they brought it up just to say that, okay, although Trump like does want this, because they might use this as a kind of claim to say like,
I get it now, I get it. Okay, then ignore all the comments I made about Trump. Okay. That makes more sense, okay. Got it. Okay. I think you might wanna make that a little bit clearer, cause like, yeah, it's not very clear. Yeah, okay, but yeah, now that you explain it, I get it. You should say something like, okay, although the opposition may bring out that cooperation will not be possible due to Trump's attitude, however, he cannot, like, make it really, really obvious, okay?
Clear.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sorry. I said like I don't know.
No, but it's a good idea okay, I just didn't get it, okay. So, I mean, you guys have like really good positions and really good points. I love the aggressiveness, just, when someone's talking, let them finish. But really good stuff. You guys, again, don't agree with the other people, because don't do that. But I like the idea of like a counter plan. That was a nice, like, creative way to address the issue. Yeah, just, good stuff, guys, overall, it was good. In your second rebuttal speech, be a little bit more specific, because in the beginning you started saying like, oh, because they said this, and then we did things, and then, like, just be more specific about, they said this and this and this. We are countering because we do this and this and this, like, be a little bit more specific. All four of you are like pretty good speakers, there's not a problem with that. And when you are reading like off your quotes, just summarize them, like you already stated them once. They already know what you're talking about, just summarize it. You don't need to read like an entire, you don't need to read like an entire line again, because you're just like wasting time for answering. You could be answering more questions, and you could be expanding more, poking more holes into their case. I like the format, you all had pretty good flow. In the first negative, constructive speech, I think it's called, okay. I feel like you should have addressed more why allying with China is bad, or like why doing that was bad. You didn't really mention it, but you did a really, really good attack on the Paris climate change. Like, I like the angle you guys took. Like, I like it. But yeah, other than that, everything was great.
Can I get a tip? If I'm asking a question and they're like driving off topic and it's wasting my time, how can I cut them off? Like, just cut them off.
Just say thank you.
But she just said it's rude, like.
No. What I mean is that, like, it's not rude. Just be like, you say it like this,
just say, okay, thank you.
just redirect.
Just as I was like, I always do this, like I look at the judge's phone and I see that the time's running out. and I see her talking about it's something that she already mentioned, and I already know,
Be
so
like,
I'm trying
okay,
to
thank you, and ask the same question again, like,
so that would be the correct way to do it?
yeah, but don't just be like, don't cut off and just start talking, like,
Like, okay, so anyways.
okay, thank you, but you're not answering my question, or tell them directly, you're not answering my question. The judge will know that they're not answering your question, because I have ears that could.
Because I got frustrated, I'm like, oh my god, my time's wasting and I need this question answered.
Yeah, it's fine, the judge will realize what's going on. Alrighty, no, but you guys are good.
Do you disclose who won or no?